Okay, good evening everybody, councillors, officers and our gallery. Lovely to see a few in the gallery on a cold wintry night. And just a reminder that it is Origin 3 and nobody is barracking for Queensland. Could I open the meeting by asking the General Manager to make announcements regarding the live streaming?
Mr Mayor, the meeting is being live streamed and or recorded for on-demand viewing via Council's website. Attendance at the meeting is to be taken as consent by a person to their image and or voice being webcast. All speakers should refrain from making any defamatory comments or releasing personal information about another individual without their consent. Council accepts no liability for the damage that may result from a defamatory comments made by persons attending meetings. All liability will rest with the individual who made the comments. The meeting must not be recorded by others without prior written consent of the Council in accordance with the Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Councillors and staff are obligated to declare conflicts of interest as required under the Local Government Act 1993 and Council's adopted Code of Conduct. Councillors are reminded of their oath of office, whereby they have declared and affirmed that they will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of the Wentworth Shire and the Wentworth Shire Council, and they will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in them under the Local Government Act or any other act to the best of their ability and judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. Could I ask those who are able to please stand for the acknowledgement of country and the prayer? I would like to pay my respect and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. We give thanks for this day and for the opportunity to work together. May we represent all members of our community fairly. We seek blessings on our meeting here this evening. Amen. Please be seated.
Amen.
Item 3. Are there any apologies or applications for leave of absence? Councillor Nichols.
Mr Mayor, I will need to be absent from the afternoon of the 1st of next month to 2nd, 3rd and possibly back on the 4th. I have an appointment in Adelaide which I cannot not be at.
Thank you. Councillor Beaumont.
Yes, I would like to request a leave of absence from the 2nd of August through to the 18th of August. I will be out of the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, apologies.
Councillor McAllister's just texted in her apology, Mr Mayor.
Oh, thank you. Okay, we have an apology for Councillor McAllister just come through. All those in favour of accepting the apologies and leave of absence? Thank you. That is carried. Sorry? Oh, could I have a mover? Councillor Rodder, seconder Councillor Crisp. Carried. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of interest? Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have a pecuniary interest, I believe, in 12.5. I'm the power of attorney for a paid-up resident of Murray House, and I have power to use her finances, which may be considered I may be persuaded or have a predetermined position.
Thank you, Councillor Nichols. Councillor Cooper.
Yes, Mr Mayor, item number 9.12, the real estate agent involved with the sale of the property, and item 9.13, the father of the applicant.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Elstone.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, similar to Councillor Cooper, item 9.12, part of the Cookland. I think I've stood out in all of them since they've been on the table, so I'll continue to do so. And 9.13, as Councillor Cooper and I are business partners, it could be deemed to me, see me as favouring his son, so I will declare an interest in that one and leave my table, I suppose.
Thank you, Councillor Elstone. That will be managed very well. Nothing further. We'll move on to confirmation of the minutes. Would someone like to move? Thank you, Councillor Crisp and Councillor Cooper. Anyone wish to speak to the minutes? All in favour of accepting the minutes? That is carried. Thank you. Item 6.1, outstanding matters from previous meetings. Would somebody like to move the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Rodder. Councillor Beaumont. Would anyone like to speak to the recommendation? All those in favour? That is carried. Thank you. I would like to move item 7.1, mayoral report. Seconder, Councillor Cooper. All those in favour? Thank you. There are no reports from committees.
Councillor Nichols.
Councillor Nichols.
Mr Mayor, I would like to do a report on the Murray-Darling Association. I thank Council for the opportunity to attend the National Conference of the Murray-Darling Association, its 80th. I'm tabling copies of their constitution, the 79th Annual General Meeting minutes, the 80th meeting agenda, the 23rd 24 Annual Report, the What We Heard report, which included consultation of the draft framework for delivering the 450 gigalitres, a basin plan, early insights paper, and an excellent map of the whole of the Murray-Darling Basin Authority. Reports on the various presenters are available to you all on the web. Quotes of interest included: learn by doing, you have to look in the mirror, not over the shoulder, and the best person to look after you is you. I have many notes, however, these can be viewed on the web in detail. The study tour was informative and interesting with regards to critical water infrastructure, management treatment and leather tanning. Tamworth has been successful in obtaining millions of dollars both by grants and by private business involvement. Again, I thank Council for the opportunity to attend this conference and Mayor Daniel for his support in getting me on and off various types of transport before, during and after the conference. Thank you.
A pleasure indeed, Councillor Nichols.
That's the paperwork I spoke about. I'll put it on the table.
You're literally going to table the documents. Thank you.
That's all on there. That's my conflict. And you have a copy of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nichols. We will move along to item 9.1, the General Manager's report. If someone would care to move the recommendation, Councillor Rodder. Thank you, Councillor Crisp. Seconded. Does anyone? Councillor Nichols has a question.
No, I second you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we have a seconder. Councillor Rodder, do you have a question?
I do. So in previous reports to Council from the General Manager, there has been a tourism report that's been missing from the last few agendas. Can we expect to have a report from our Tourism Officer Department at any stage going forward?
General Manager.
Short answer is yes, Councillor Rodder. Obviously there's been sort of a mix of events and coming and going and absenteeism, but yeah, we can certainly put that back on the agenda.
Thank you.
There being no further questions, I'll ask all those in favour of accepting the report. That is carried. Thank you. Item 9.2, Memorandum of Understanding between Wentworth Shire Council and Wentworth Pioneer Homes Committee Incorporated. You will recall we had a workshop on this item. Moved Councillor Beaumont, seconded Councillor Crisp. Does anyone wish to speak to the recommendation? Councillor Crisp.
Yes, I'd like to support this MOU as it further develops a vital piece of infrastructure for our community, being additional, or the possibility of developing additional accommodation for our elderly and retirees. And I think that this is, Council owns the land, so we inherit some responsibilities with the land. An MOU partnership with the committee, I think, is a wise move, and I think this is a fair document for both sides.
Thank you, Councillor Crisp. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you. That is carried. Item 9 9.4, might go to 9.3 first. Request for sponsorship, the 2024 Sunraysia Safari Cross Country Rally. We have some options presented for our consideration. Would someone like to move a motion? Councillor Crisp.
I'll move the motion.
So the options we have are to,
I'd like to debate the issue. Do we need to move it to debate it?
Yes.
Right. So I'll move the motion for the course of debate, and make the following comments that.
Sorry, just to be clear, you're moving option A, approve the sponsorship of $20,000 and the in-kind support.
Yes, move option A.
Thank you. Seconder. Do I have a... Thank you, Councillor Beaumont. Would you like to speak to the...
No, certainly, Mr Mayor. This has been an event that has been running and has had some success over time, but it is growing into a substantial expense for council. And there is an opportunity cost for us to perhaps support other events, but that are not available due to the size of this particular request. So, although I'm not proposing to change the request, what I would like to include in our correspondence with the organisers, that in their acquittal of this or their application for the next event, want to see a pathway where they can perhaps be looking for their own financial stability or financial sustainability. And it's very, we are good at stumping up for seeding and getting projects established. To have an ongoing level of support of this nature is a concern. So I'm happy to support it this year, but we need to talk to the organisers, and so we need a path going forward that will show that they can contribute a little more to their financial sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crisp. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion?
I have a question, that's all.
Okay. Perhaps I'll take the question and then we'll go to Councillor Rodder to speak against the motion.
My question is, has this organisation previously given any indication that they were going to need this funding forever, or have they given an indication that they would become self-reliant?
Refer that to the General Manager.
In the initial correspondence of request, there was a sentiment or a statement saying that 3 years would be the desire for which during that course of time they would become sustainable in their own right.
Thank you. So now we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 years plus 2 missing, so we're now into their 9th year.
I'd suggest it's more than 3.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rodder, speaking against the motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the in-kind costs that have been requested, along with the $20,000 in direct cash sponsorship, is significant. So my concern is that we are supporting this event and the people who attend this event to the detriment of businesses within our shire. So if we're providing 75 sites at $40 per day at a total cost of $21,000 with free accommodation, what is that doing to our local tourism businesses? So the caravan park hopefully should be open. Our local accommodation providers, I don't agree with the option A. I think that if we were to provide financial support, I think there's room to for people who are attending that event. If you travel to a region, you expect to pay for accommodation. For example, at the recent Hatter event, those people who travelled to the region to participate in that event would have paid for accommodation. I think it's unreasonable for us to be supplying free accommodation, and it would be one way that they could offset some of their costs if they were to actually charge people who are staying at the facility the per day rate, which would be less contribution from council. I do not support option A. I think if we were to approve the sponsorship amount and then renegotiate with the event organisers the in-kind, would be a far better outcome for council. And the other thing that I'd like to point out is that the information that's been provided back to council about the economic benefit to our region is lacking in detail. So if we were to support this event this year, then there needs to be clear boundaries provided to the event organisers on the expectations of reporting back to council. We've funded this event over successive years to a significant amount of money with questionable economic benefit to our region. So what value for money is our Shire getting from continuously sponsoring this event? I don't think it's quite as high as alluded to in the report, because there's no hard data to prove that.
Thank you, Councillor. Would anyone else wish to speak in support of the motion? Councillor Beaumont.
Look, yes, I'd probably echo the sentiments of Councillor Rodder in relation to the in-kind support. I note that the financial component, sponsorship component, is the same as the last year's request, but certainly the in-kind support has looks like it has at least gone up by about 50% this year. So I think there is room to, if not this year, certainly hone in on that in-kind support for future years. And like Councillor Rodder, I think there's certainly room to be charging campers at the caravan park. We do have a fee, I believe, within our schedule of fees and charges for camping at the caravan park, and I don't think it would be unreasonable to expect participants to be paying camping fees, at least at the caravan park.
Thank you. So I'll just remind everybody that we are debating option A. So in the absence of an amendment, that's what I'll put to the vote. Councillor Rodder.
So given that's the case, then, Mr Mayor, so I would like to propose an alternative option amendment to what has been initially moved. Mm-hmm. So approve the sponsorship of $20,000 ex-GST and change the in-kind support, free access to the showground, free camping. So remove that from the option, and leave the cleaning of the toilets, showers and emptying of the rubbish bins in.
Okay, so effectively the in-kind support is removing the camping component.
Yes.
Okay, so the amendment proposed is on screen. Do you wish to speak to the amendment?
I think that what I said earlier is probably a testament to my thoughts on that. It's unreasonable for council to be expected to provide free camping to attendees to an event when it is detrimental to our local accommodation businesses.
Would anyone like to speak against the amendment? Question, Councillor Nichols.
Can one of the gentlemen, probably the finance person say what the cost would be without the camping component? Is it 21,000 as they're suggesting, or
It'd come back down to $9,000 in kind support.
9,000? Oh, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nichols. Councillor Crisp.
As the mover of option A for the purposes of debate and consistent with my comments around the debate, I have no objection to the amendment.
Okay, I'll put the amendment. Sorry, did I have a seconder? So Councillor Cooper has seconded the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment? That is carried and becomes the motion. All those in favour of the motion? That is carried. Thank you. Item 9.4. The Local Government New South Wales 2024 Annual Conference. We have a recommendation that the Mayor and General Manager attend the conference in November 2024. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Nichols, seconded Councillor Rodder. Does anyone wish to speak for the recommendation? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. The monthly finance report, item 9.5. Is there someone wishing to move the recommendation? Councillor Cooper, and seconded Councillor Beaumont. Is there any queries? Councillor Beaumont.
Oh, yes, just one question for Director Governance and Finance. The receipts for the period ending 30th of June have increased by around $5 million over the previous month. I guess that is due to financial assistance grant coming in.
Yes, they very wisely gave it to us after hours on the 28th of June, which happened to be on a Friday. So there was no time for us to reallocate that money into into term deposits and other investments. So, yeah. So it was about, I don't know, $6.6 million or something like that was given to us at that point in time. Just for noting point two, you remember this time last year, around about that, we undertook a process to sell up some properties for payment of rates. So you'll notice on the table on page 80 that our outstanding rates has gone from $975,000 at the start of the year to $673,000 at the end of the financial year. So that exercise was well worth it.
Indeed. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That is carried. Thank you very much. Item 9.6, the monthly investment report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Rodder. Seconded Councillor Crisp. Any questions regarding this report? There being none, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That is carried. Thank you. Item 9.7, the Wentworth Military Museum Financial Assistance Request. We have a recommendation to consider the contents of the report and the options as printed, page 96. Would anybody like to move a motion? Councillor Elstone.
Yeah, it's similar to the previous item. I'd like to debate it because I think there's a few things should be said, but I will move option C.
Option C has been moved by Councillor Elstone. Is that seconded? Councillor Crisp has seconded. Would someone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Elstone.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Mayor...
You're going to have to use your most
biggest
big boy voice, just so we can hear you. Tim, thank you. Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on with the volume, but...
how's that? Is that any better?
We'll just listen intently. Oops, now we can't hear you at all.
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gotcha.
Rodney?
Proceed.
Okay. No, I think, look, it's an absolute wonderful concept, and it's a real credit to the team that's put the presentation to us. But I just feel that council has a responsibility to its ratepayers to obviously handle finances wisely. We're not a bank, we're not a lending institution, and on that basis, I just, as much as I like the concept, I just can't support it. That's probably the bottom line for me.
Thanks, Councillor Elstone. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Another speaker for the motion? Councillor Beaumont.
Look, I'd just like to say as an individual, I fully support the aspirations of the Wentworth Military Collection in aspiring to build their Wentworth Military Legacy Centre. It would be a wonderful attribute to the tourism portfolio and attractions that we offer within the Shire. But I also believe as a council we should be supporting the Wentworth Military Collection in achieving its ultimate ambition. But that support needs to be realistic, responsible and manageable within council resources. So whilst I will be voting against voting with the resolution as recommended, I am sympathetic to the cause and would like to see Mr James and his hard-working board achieve their ultimate goal, and if we can help along that journey in some way, so be it.
Thanks, Councillor Beaumont. I think everyone in the chamber would concur and certainly respect the work that's being done by Russell and all the volunteers. That being said, I'll put the question or the motion, which is option C. All those in favour? That is carried. Thank you. Item 9.8, request to become a regular weekly user of the Midway function room. The recommendation is that we consider the report and choose option A, B or C. Would someone like to move a motion? Councillor Rodder.
I'd like to move option C. Council approve the full 75% regular user discount, reducing the hire fee to $32 per hour.
Seconded by Councillor Cooper. Does anybody wish to speak to the motion? Councillor
I'll
Beaumont.
speak against it.
Oh, sorry. We'll have a speaker for the motion first, if there is one, and then we'll...
Sorry, I forgot to turn my microphone on before, Mr Mayor. In regards to opportunities for people within the eastern end of the Shire to access that kind of classes for wellbeing not too far from home is absolutely wonderful. We all know how many people are residing in that neck of the Shire, and to have services like that available, I think we need to continue to facilitate and encourage business to bring that kind of wellbeing service to our Shire.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Beaumont.
Yes, I'd just like to point out that this is a commercial activity which will achieve a commercial gain for the operators. My concern is that if approved, the decision may present a precedent for the Shire going forward in terms of leasing or renting other Shire assets to commercial operators. I'm aware that there are other personal trainers within the Shire that do operate from other, their communities within their own homes and or established studios within their own premises. As I say, I think this probably could set a precedent. I'm also aware that we do have or have had voluntary organisations within the Shire that have been refused subsidised access to Shire assets. So on that basis, I would be suggesting that we should be voting no on this.
Thanks, Councillor Beaumont. Would anyone else like to speak for the motion?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment. I'd like to move that we look at B, insofar as 50% discount will at least cover the heating, cooling and lighting. And I don't think as a council we should be, and it's going to be 8 people at each of these classes by reading the paperwork, and I think that council cannot afford to let any of its facilities be hired out for an amount less than what it's going to cost to run, particularly in hot weather.
Thank you.
So I would move B as...
Thank you. So Councillor Nichols' amendment is to use the words as printed for option B. Is that seconded? There being no seconder, the amendment lapses. So we'll return to the motion, option C. Does anyone else wish to speak for the motion? I'll take one more speaker against it if there is. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Carried. Quite right. Those against? Would you like your votes recorded? Councillor Nichols and Councillor Beaumont against. The motion is carried. Item 9.9. Councillor Elstone.
I'd like to move to defer that motion, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
I suppose I could...
Seconded Councillor Nichols. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Item 9.10. Councillor Crisp.
I'd like to move that this be deferred.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded? Councillor Rodder. Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Item 9.11, lifting of the alcohol-free zone in Wentworth on the Rowing Club Lawns area. Move the motion, which is including parts A, B and C. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Rodder. Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Anyone wish to speak against? All those in favour? That is carried. Thank you. Item 9.12, a dwelling with a garage. We have a recommendation for approval.
If I could just...
sorry.
Mayor, because I have to leave the room. Simon, what do I do here?
We'll send you a text message, Councillor Elstone, where you can rejoin the meeting.
So I just leave, push the leave button?
No.
Okay, Councillor Elstone has permanently left the building.
He just walked away from his computer, but doesn't matter.
Okay.
Hopefully the volume will be We've got to examine the next one.
So it's 12 and 13? Okay. All right. Would someone like to move a motion? Councillor Rodder.
So I'd like to move the motion that the recommendation be accepted.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Crisp. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Would anyone like to speak against the motion? I'll put the question, and given that this is a planning matter, I remind councillors that this vote will constitute a division and all votes for and against will be recorded. Those in favour of the motion? Those against? There are none. The motion is carried unanimously. Item 9.13, a deferred commencement for a dwelling. Seek a motion. Councillor Crisp and seconded Councillor Beaumont. Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? I'll put it to the vote, and given that this is a division, I'll remind councillors that all votes for and against will be recorded for that purpose. Those in favour? Thank you. That is carried unanimously. And we will invite Councillor Cooper to return, and hopefully we can get Councillor Elstone back online.
Who's communicating with Tim?
We all ring you at once. Do you want to pause the meeting for?
I did.
Sorry, folks, just a slight pause while we get Councillor Elstone back online.
I texted him. He'll be back.
Perhaps we...
He's just reconciling his text messages, so it's okay.
All right, we'll just give it a moment. Welcome back, Councillor Elstone. We have moved along to item 9.14, a deferred commencement for a dwelling. Would someone like to move a motion? Councillor Rodder. Moving the motion, the recommendation. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Crisp. Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? I'll put the question and remind councillors that as this is a division, all votes for and against will be recorded for that purpose. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.15, a two-storey dwelling at 24 River Drive, Baronga. We have a recommendation in front of us. Would someone like to move? Councillor Rodder has moved the recommendation. Seconded Councillor Cooper. Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Oh, sorry, rattling along a bit quick here. Councillor Nichols.
Yeah, the comment probably is that the last 3 or 4, somebody smarter than what I am, is certainly using 4.6 very wisely.
Thank you for the comment, Councillor Nichols. Where was I up to? Would anyone like to speak against the motion? I'll put the question, and as this is a planning matter, this vote will be considered a division, and so I remind councillors that all votes for and against will be recorded as such. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Oh, the wow tree. I was hoping we'd get to this. Item 9.16, planning proposal to heritage list the wow tree and amend heritage mapping. This is exciting. So we have a recommendation in front of us, and it's moved by Councillor Nichols, seconded by Councillor Rodder. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Would anyone like to speak against? I'll put the motion and remind councillors that as this is a division, all votes for and against will be recorded for that purpose. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.17, Wentworth Local Environmental Planning proposal to reduce the minimum lot size from 3,000 square metres to 2,000 square metres, and we have a recommendation in front of us for endorsement. Would someone like to move a motion?
I'd like to move an alternative motion.
Councillor Rodder would like to move an alternative motion. Or move a motion.
Move a motion. So my motion would be to further consult with the community in regards to the planning proposal. The fact that there was a number of signatures on an objection, 20 or more, and that was counted as only one submission, objection to the proposal. would indicate that there's a high level of dissatisfaction with this proposal within the community, and I think those residents should be given the opportunity to lodge further objection to this proposal.
All right. So
I'm sorry, Gail.
yeah. So the motion is to defer for further consultation. Is that seconded? Is the motion seconded? Councillor Beaumont has seconded the motion. Would anyone wish to speak?
I just have a question.
Sorry,
Mr. Mayor.
question, Councillor.
The actual recommendation is that we endorse the post-exhibition to something that we've already approved to do. Reading the summary, that we've requested a gateway determination, and wouldn't in that recommendation that then goes to public anyway, or have I got that wrong?
So I think that's probably a debating point because Councillor Rodder has moved a motion.
Okay, sorry.
So if anyone would like to speak for the motion, would anyone like to speak against the motion? Those in favour, I'll put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is lost. So we
Can
return.
it now be debated, or
Sorry?
can it now be debated?
If someone would like to move a motion, yes.
Well, I'll just move that I'd like to talk about what the recommendation is and what we've already approved, if that's okay.
Yep, so Councillor Elstone has moved the recommendation as printed. Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Crisp. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Elstone.
Just to say that the department's already issued a gateway determination to proceed, so we really can't argue the reduction in the lot size, can we? It's already done.
So that's a question. Would anyone like to respond to that? Director?
Yep, so the gateway was the department basically agreeing with council and with the planning proposal to reduce the minimum lot size. And the gateway was issued to council with a number of conditions that we had to abide by before we can finalize the planning proposal. And as this report shows, we have met with all the gateway conditions as issued by the department.
Thank you, Director. Would anyone
Sorry,
like to-
Councillor Elstone, did you hear George at that particular point in time?
Yeah, didn't quite get the lot, if you wouldn't mind.
In essence, Councillor Elstone and other councillors, the gateway has been issued with conditions for which the conditions have been adhered to, and now this is a recommendation to say that let's finalise that gateway determination and proposal. In line with what you said, you'd already determined that a 3,000 to 2,000 gateway determination was sought and it was agreed to by the Department of Planning. Now this is to finalise that.
Yeah, and so it was sought by the council.
Yes, that's correct. The planning proposal was put forward and the previous council actions had endorsed that, got the gateway determination. Gateway determination come forward with conditions. Conditions have now been met. This recommendation is saying that we've done that and can we move forward for the finalisation of the...
So if we now didn't want to do it, wouldn't we have to turn that initial support over or endorsement over?
If you chose not to endorse it at this point in time, you'd be questioning your previous decision.
That's not, yeah, I mean, as it says, we resolved to proceed with it. So why would we be questioning it now?
The recommendation doesn't suggest that, Councillor Elstone.
No, that's why I support the recommendation that we should go on with it. We've
Okay.
already made that decision.
Thank you. So Councillor Elstone has spoken in support of the recommendation as printed to endorse. And would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Rodder.
So in regards to the public exhibition consultation that was conducted in accordance with the Gateway determination, 5 public submissions were received, with 2 of the submissions being duplicates of each other. I think 9 days' notice for those people in that neighbourhood to respond is insufficient time, and for there to be counted as one submission, a letter that was signed by 20 plus residents in that street, is unfair to say that the public exhibition consultation was conducted fairly. It wasn't.
Thanks, Councillor Rodder. Would the Director like to respond to any commentary around the timeframes offered?
Yes, so the Gateway determination provided a number of days that we needed to advertise the planning proposal, which Council adhered to, and we advertised that planning proposal for 20 days. We sent out letters to adjoining landholders, and it was advertised in the newspaper and on our website.
In regards to sending out letters, so where were the letters sent to? To their residential address when there's no mail service there? Or do you have access to all of those people in that neighbourhood's PO boxes?
We have access to their post office box as part of the rate system.
20 days is not very long to pull together, and if you look at one of those submissions that was signed by 20 plus people, that was quite a lengthy response. To count that as one, I think, is disingenuous to those people in that neighbourhood.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak for the motion? I'll just say, by way of indulgence, if there is such a thing, I'll read my rule book later. I think that what will happen is that there's some goodwill actually on the part of the submission writers or the objectors and the developers, and I think that in a proactive fashion Council can ensure that there's a pre-lodgement meeting for any future development to iron out when you dig into the actual objections to probably resolve a lot of those issues. So I'll just leave that as a comment. I'll put the motion. Those in favour, and as this is a planning matter, I'll remind councillors that all votes for and against will be recorded for that purpose. Those against? Councillor Rodder and Councillor Cooper against, and the motion is carried. Thank you. Item 9.18, project works and update for July. Would someone like to move into our favourite report? Councillor Rodder, seconder, Councillor Crisp, and are there any questions? Councillor Beaumont.
Can I just ask, is there any further update on the Willow Bend Caravan Park post the walkthrough a couple of weeks ago? Whilst acknowledging that your report here, is there anything further to add? Anticipated opening or remaining works?
Defer that to the General Manager.
There's about 4 tradesmen down there currently in terms of fixing up of cabins and concreting and fencing and whatever else. So we had a bit of a setback with a bit of rain delays, not a big ticket item, so we're still hoping that our contractors will be out of there. I've always been saying, I haven't always, but in recent time I was sort of talking about end of July, so now it's probably a little bit later than that. The obvious question in relation to the opening, that's still in discussion and negotiation, I guess, with the potential future leaseholders, and that hasn't reached agreement at this point in time.
Councillor Nichols.
Mr Mayor, several things in here I'd like answers to. When seems to be the easy way out here. Rose Street Stormwater Stage 1, evaluation underway. When will we know an answer? Bironga Riverfront Toilet Block Services, evaluation underway. When will we have an answer? Dieton 2 Sewage Pump Station, evaluation underway. When will we have an answer? And on the other page, the amenities block, Pooncarie and Bironga, toilet blocks to be delivered. Then that's what I'm saying. When?
Yeah, Director, I think all those submissions are considered as one.
Right. For Rose Street, I think the first three of your questions, they have been evaluated and the tenders are in the confidential section for your decision tonight. So they have been done and they're presented for decision tonight. The Pooncarie placement of the toilet block, the toilet block is completed and the contractor is establishing, I think it's in the next week, the footings on site, shortly followed by the placement of the buildings. So that should be in place in the coming weeks, and all those
Before the Pooncarie races.
yes, and all the other items that you mentioned tonight have been addressed and are for your consideration tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Rodder.
Didn't read so close enough.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So at a previous meeting, and I'm not sure if it was the last meeting or whether it was an advisory meeting, there was some discussion around the speed reduction zones in Wentworth, that there was to be markings put onto the bitumen. When I came through that area tonight, I didn't notice that. So the 40k sign is actually a little bit hard to see when you're coming in from Pomona Way. Did I have a boy's look or?
Yes, all the pavement markings have all been completed, yes.
Thank you. So I'll have a look when I go out tonight. So
Thank you.
James King Park, when will that park be reopened?
James King Park, the placement of the timbers on the eastern section of wall are occurring as we speak. The construction of the stairs for access to that beach portion have been placed with the intention in the coming week or two to open up the eastern section and access to the boat ramp, with the remainder of the western section to be completed in the following week to 2 weeks after that.
Thank you, Director. Are there any further questions? I have a quick one, and sorry if I've missed it. The lighting upgrades in Golgol, have the overhead stuff been done?
I think I mentioned that in the previous notes, but the essential energy component of the project, they've advised that they've ordered all their materials for placement of lights, and they have programmed that for mid-August. Also, their approval is pending for the placement of the solar lights under their other infrastructure, and we expect that in the coming days, and then the follow-up for the solar lighting component.
Great, thank you. Councillor Beaumont.
Yeah, just one last question from me. On page 488, there's two pictures of the Junction Island footbridge. At the last ordinary meeting in June, I did ask the question in relation to the to the bridge, the handrail and the intermediary rail between the bridge and handrail. There's only one intermediary. Does that satisfy OC health and safety regulations?
That was referred to the engineering department, and advice from the engineering manager is that it does satisfy the requirements. Having said that, we are seeking the options to provide some additional protection, as you indicated, Councillor Beaumont, at the previous meeting. So that is the option that is currently being looked at the moment, to retrofit the railing for additional protection.
Thank you. Glad you brought that up. What a stunning walkway it is. It's fantastic. Yes. Yeah. It's good for your cholesterol. All those in favour of accepting the report? That's carried. Thank you. Item 10, there are no notices of motion. Are there any questions with notice? Councillor Beaumont.
Well, it's a question without notice, but look, having witnessed one of our, a senior member of our community take a rather hard fall on Saturday at the corner of Darling and Sandwich Streets. The person stepped on some loose gravel and leaf and debris, and just feet went straight out. It was a heavy landing, and we're lucky there was no significant injuries other than bruising. My question is, can we have the Shire street sweeper do that central part of the CBD area of Wentworth more frequently to pick up the leaf matter that's dropping daily, the seed pods, and also the gravel that seems to congregate on corners with all the heavy vehicles going to and fro at these times.
So that's the trees and the main
street, basically. Yeah. It is quite dangerous.
Thank you. Anything? Councillor Crisp.
I have a question which relates to some lobbying that's been undertaken to a number of councillors that I'm aware of in the room, and that's regarding the jockey room and the ramps arrangements that is at the showgrounds. And I'm wondering if there has been a response prepared to the author of that letter, who has also followed up with contacting myself and a number of other councillors about the desire to have the ramp continue onto what would be the old road end of the jockey rooms. So now I'm not too sure whether the responses are, whether would have been received. It's just whether an answer has been dispatched for that.
Well, thank you, Councillor. I'm not in the club. I haven't seen said correspondence. Is there any?
I'll take the question on. I believe there has been, Councillor Chris, but I will confirm that and provide that response.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further? Thank you, everybody. We'll move along to item 11, confidential business. If someone would like to move the recommendation, Councillor Crisp.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that Council adjourns into closed session, the recording of the meeting be suspended, and members of the press and public be excluded from the closed session, and that access to the correspondence and reports relating to these items considered during the course of the closed session be withheld unless declassified by a separate resolution. This action is taken in accordance with Section 10A(2) of the Local Government Act 1993, as the items listed come within those provisions.
Thank you, Councillor Crisp. Would someone like to second that? Thank you, Councillor Rodder. All in favour? All those in favour? That is carried. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you and good evening. We'll deal with item 12 and I'll ask the General Manager to report back on the outcomes of the closed council for items 12.1 through to 12.6.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As you've identified, 6 items of matter being dealt with under closed business this evening. First one, 12.1, plant replacement for a tipping truck. So it was resolved that Council accept the tender from Johnson's Truck and Coach Services for the supply of one UD Q1Q GW 26460 for the sum of $330,000 including GST, and one tri-dog tipper for the sum of $140,000 including GST, and accept the trade-in price of $70,000 including GST for the council-owned Isuzu truck with a changeover price of $380,000 including GST. Item 12.2 was in relation to the Derton Sewer Pump Station number 2 upgrade. It was resolved that Council, in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government General Regulations, Section 178(1)A, accept the tender from Waters Excavations Proprietary Limited and subsequently authorise the Mayor and myself as General Manager to sign the contract, documentation and affix the seal for the recommended contract document and for a approved price of $389,643.77 GST inclusive. In relation to 12.3 Rose Street Stormwater, it was resolved that Council, in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government General Regulation Section 178(1)A, accept the tender from Capagrego Excavations Proprietary Limited and subsequently authorise the Mayor and myself to sign the contract documentation and affix the seal for the recommended contractor to carry out all works supplied for $233,422 GST inclusive. In relation to 12.4, the Baronga Riverfront Toilet Block, it was resolved that Council, in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government General Regulation, Section 178(1)A, accepts the tender from Capagrego Excavations and subsequently authorise the Mayor and myself as General Manager to sign the contract documentation, affix the seal for the recommended contractor to carry out all works specified for a price of $418,686.40 inclusive of GST. In relation to item 12.5, the disposal of council chambers and library, it was resolved that Council accept the request from Murray House Board to pay $50,000 being a 10% refundable deposit, as well as allowing an extension of time until January 2025 to finalise the purchase of this said allotment. In relation to item 12.6, it was resolved that Council endorse the funding arrangements as presented for the FOSO installation for that continuation of that project futuristically. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager, and that concludes this evening's meeting, and I want to thank everybody for the very collegiate way that we navigated some challenging discussions, and advise that our next meeting is the 14th of August 2024. Thank you.